Trying to lose 25 pounds and build some muscle shouldn't feel like you're solving a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. But with all the conflicting advice out there, it's no wonder you probably feel a little overwhelmed, right? Carnivore is the best diet. No, you need to go vegan, and that's what you need to do. Wait, no, just cut out all carbs and go keto. That's the answer. Or should you, do full body training? Or should you do body part splits? I heard if you really want to lose weight, you should do some HIIT training. Or wait, was it fasted cardio? If you feel like you're spinning your wheels a little bit, it's okay, I've been there too. But in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I went from 200 pounds down to 195 pounds while also building the most muscle I ever have. I'm a registered dietitian and I've helped hundreds of clients lose weight and build muscle using this exact same system. Like my client who lost 30 pounds and was able to put on about 5 pounds of muscle. But most importantly, she was able to crush her very first pull-up ever. She'd never been able to do a pull-up before. And so she was super proud of that. So whether you're starting out and you're starting from scratch, or you've been at this for a little while and you are maybe hitting a plateau, this system works for either scenario. So what are we getting into today? We're going to talk about 4 specific topics. We're going to talk about mindset, we're going to talk about nutrition, we're going to talk about training, and we're also going to talk about progress tracking. Each category is going to have 5 simple and actionable steps you can follow, so that's about 20 steps in total, that are designed to help you stay focused, stay consistent, and most importantly, get the results you want to get. So let's dive into today's video. Before we talk about calories, macros, or workouts, we got to fix something first. This is your mindset. This is the foundation for everything. Being clear with your goals, understanding why you actually want to achieve them, being able to manage stressful events, setbacks, and failures when life gets messy. This is what separates those that actually see results from those that just keep starting over and over and over again. The truth is, your mindset drives consistency. That consistency is what's going to drive those results. So before we talk about anything else, we are going to set this foundation. Here are the 5 steps that I use for myself and for my clients to build lasting change. First, step 1, we start by clearly defining our goals. Step 2, we define our why. Step 3, we reverse engineer our goals. Step 4, we develop a growth mindset. And step 5, we set our true priorities. Let's get into it. When I first started wanting to change my body or getting serious about it, my goals were all over the place. I wanted to lose weight, I wanted to build muscle, I wanted to feel better, I wanted to lose body fat. While this sounds like a start, it definitely wasn't a strategy. It was just wishful thinking. And honestly, I see this in almost every single client that I work with. They kind of know what they want, but not really. Everything started to change for me when I got specific. I sat down and I wrote out exactly how much weight I wanted to lose, exactly how much muscle I wanted to build, by when I wanted to have that happen, why that was actually important to me, and how I was going to measure and track that progress over time. I set SMART goals, right? They were specific, they were measurable, they were attainable, they were relevant to my current situation, and they were time-bound. This is when everything started to change for me. The distractions didn't hit as hard. The urges or cravings just weren't as urgent as they previously were. And the setbacks just didn't derail me or take me off track like they normally would. I no longer was relying on motivation and willpower and discipline, but rather I had a mission and I could stick to it. So here are the takeaways. If your goal isn't clear, neither is your plan. When you have a clear goal that you know why you're trying to achieve it and when you're going to do it by, this almost gives you binoculars into the future where you can just know exactly where you're going. Step 2 is to know your why. Here's the truth, you're going to be tested. There's going to be days you don't feel like doing it. It'll be easier to hit the snooze button. It'll be easier to go grab some fast food. Processed foods are engineered to be more tempting than, let's say, your meal prep ever will be. Comfort is always going to feel more convenient than change ever will. And that's why motivation alone isn't enough. What got me and my clients through those moments wasn't just discipline. It was having a real purpose that actually mattered. Let me tell you about the story of the client that was able to lose 30 pounds and was able to do her first pull-up. She came to me after a pretty tough doctor's visit where she was obese, she had high blood pressure, her triglycerides like cholesterol were through the roof, and her blood sugar was trending towards diabetes. She didn't want another meal plan or workout plan or quick fix. She wanted to prove not only to her doctor, but to herself that she could change. This is what we rooted her plan in, was that reason why. It was more than just about weight loss. It was about taking her life back. And you know what? She did. After several months of hard work and dedication, she went back to the doctor. She got off several medications and she reversed all of those labs. That kind of change doesn't come from just wanting to lose weight. That kind of change comes from a purpose that pulls you forward. So here are the takeaways. Your why is your anchor. Make it personal and make it powerful. And post it somewhere that you're gonna see it every single day. Step 3, reverse engineering your goals. I want to tell you a story real quick. When I was 16 years old, my dad got me my very first gym pass. I was a sophomore in high school. I weighed about 135 pounds soaking wet. So I was tiny, I was really small. And I was really insecure. I really wanted to build some muscle. I really wanted to build my confidence. And in all honesty, I wanted to stop the seniors in high school from picking on me and bullying me. This pretty soon led me to wanting to become a bodybuilder. I thought to myself, you know, if I ate clean, I trained hard, and I didn't go out and I stayed focused, that in a year or two, I could actually look like the guys on a Muscle and Fitness magazine. I know I'm laughing at it now too, but stick with me. So I went all in. I cooked all my meals at home. I was staying super focused. I didn't go out and party. I pretty much lived in the gym. I really thought I was doing everything right. A couple years go by, and I bet you can guess it, I did not look like a bodybuilder. Not even close. This really led me to feeling like a failure. And guess what? I quit. I went from being completely obsessed to off the rails. I started partying, staying out late, skipped the gym, and started eating some fast food. It wasn't until a few years later that I actually understood the problem. My goal was massive, but I really didn't have a plan. The guys that I admired that were on the Muscle and Fitness magazines, they didn't build their physiques in a year or two. It took them decades of consistent structured effort to achieve what they had. Once I accepted this, everything changed. I reversed engineered the bigger picture. I broke down my weekly goals into daily actions that I could actually control. I could eat more fiber. I could prep one more meal each week. I could skip one less workout each week. And I could get an extra hour of sleep. That's when the progress started to compound. I stopped crashing and burning out. I started being more consistent, and I actually started to look like I trained. So the takeaways here are big goals are going to require, or they're going to need small steps. You want to reverse engineer the outcome into clear and manageable checkpoints. You don't want to ask yourself what you want. Rather, you want to ask yourself, what can I do this week that's going to move me one step closer to my goals? That's how you stay consistent, and that's how you win. Step 4 is having a growth mindset. Here's something I see with so many of my clients. They're doing the workouts, they're tracking their food, they're following the plan, but because the progress feels slow, they think that they're failing. And that's the trap of a fixed mindset. It says, I should already be good at this, and because I'm not, I'm failing. But a growth mindset is different. It says, I can grow, I can learn, I'm probably not good at this yet, but I will be. Let's look at a real world example. I had a client come in and she was just frustrated. She was super laser focused on the scale, and because it wasn't moving fast enough, she was questioning if it was even worth it. So we zoomed out. We looked at all the ways she had improved. She felt stronger, she had more energy, and her meals were way more balanced. But we then looked at her tracking, and that's where the real mindset shift happened. She started out tracking her food, kind of eyeballing things, not really paying much attention. Then she started weighing and measuring all of her food and tracking that, right? So progress from 1 to 2. And then she is now at a point where she's not just tracking for calories, but she's trying to optimize other nutrients. She's trying to get enough fiber, enough protein, and her vitamins and minerals. See, that is growth and that is progress. It's definitely not instant and it's definitely not flashy, but it's really meaningful. It's like the story of the samurai, where a young man comes in and asks the master, hey, if I work twice as hard, how long will it take me to become a samurai? And the master says 10 years. And so the student comes back and says, what if I'm willing to work day and night? And the master comes back and says 20 years. The student baffles and asks why. And the master says, your eyes are so locked on the outcome that you stop learning. You miss the path, and the path is where the progress lives. So the takeaways, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be getting better step by step. That's the growth mindset, and it is what is going to keep pushing you forward, especially when the progress feels slow. Step 5 in the mindset category, which is the last step, is setting your priorities. Look, we all have the same 24 hours within a day. That's it. And time is the most valuable currency that we have. We're not getting any more of it. So how we spend that time is our priority, whether we like to admit it or not. Look, I get it. I have a lot of goals. I want to accomplish a lot of things in my life. For instance, I'd love to learn how to speak Spanish. I would also love to learn how to play an instrument. I also have this kind of idea about becoming a high-rated chess player at some point in my life. But again, all of those things take time, and right now my time is accounted for. I want to become the best nutrition and strength coach I could possibly be, building a business around that and still following through with my health and fitness goals. Now, that clarity didn't come easy. In the beginning, I tried to do everything. I'd have some progress here, I'd have a little progress there, but really never move the needle forward on anything. So I had to make a decision. Do less, better. I had to stop spreading myself so thin, and I had to focus on what mattered right now. Not forever, just now. Once I locked some of these goals in place, I can then open up and start to think about other things. This applies to your health and fitness goals as well. Some people say that they want to lose weight, they want to build muscle, they want to eat better, but their actions say otherwise. If you spend more time watching Netflix than you do meal planning, or you're too busy scrolling to get in a workout, then those are your priorities, even if they're unintentional. So here are the takeaways. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. If changing your body is what matters to you, it has to go on the calendar, because time spent is the truth of what you really care about. All right, now that you have your mindset locked in, it's time to talk about nutrition. Look, this is where a lot of people get overwhelmed, but it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need to cut out carbs or detox or survive on grilled chicken breasts, but what you do need is a clear science-based plan that works and fits your lifestyle. Here is the 5-step nutrition framework that I use with my clients. Number 1, calories, which are the foundation. Number 2 is food choice. Stop eating like an asshole. Number 3 is macronutrients. Number 4 is meal timing and distribution. Number 5 is hydration and supplementation. Each one builds on the next. It's simple, it works, and you can do this. Let's jump in. Step 6, calories, the foundation. I became a dietitian because I love food. I love to eat it, I love to cook it, I like to try new spots. It's a really big part of me and my life. But that love also made it really easy for me to overeat calories. There were seasons where I would overeat and I'd watch that scale climb and I'd panic. So I'd do what a lot of people do and I'd slash my calories hard. I'd go super low thinking I just need to be strict for a little while. But it never lasted. I'd get too hungry and too tired just to end up where I was, or even worse. What changed everything for me was learning how to manage my calories. Not guess and not slash and hope. So here's what I did. First, I found my maintenance level of calories. This was my basal metabolic rate plus my activity level or my activity factor. There are a lot of calorie calculators online. Just a quick Google search, I'm sure you can find one that'll spit this out for you. From there, I had 2 options. Option number 1 was to eat at maintenance. But during this period of time, I would try and improve my overall food and diet quality, eating things like lean proteins, whole grains, fruits and vegetables, low-fat dairy, making sure I'm meeting all of the food groups. More on that later. In addition, during this time, I would try to increase my overall physical activity regimen. So I would go for more walks, I would increase my strength training, or go for more bike rides or hikes. I just try to be more physically active. This would normally encourage the fat loss while also preventing any muscle loss, or actually helping me put on a little bit of muscle. It's honestly my favorite path. Option number 2 was to actually create a little bit of a calorie deficit. So taking the calorie maintenance that we talked about earlier and subtracting about 5 to 10%. A small calorie deficit, right? I would track it, I'd stick to it, and I'd give it some time. No extreme diets, no starvation, just enough to nudge fat loss without losing my mind. And you know what? that worked. I stayed consistent and I finally stopped going back and forth. So here's the takeaway. Most of us overeat because food is everywhere and it is delicious. But going too restrictive doesn't fix it. Oftentimes it just makes it harder. The key is balance. Eating enough to stay fueled, but not eating so much that you're stalling out your progress, and not eating so little that you are completely burning out. Remember, calories are the foundation. If you can get this right from the get-go, everything else falls into place. Step 7 is all about food choice. And titled appropriately, it is stop eating like an asshole. Let's face it, a majority of us that are gaining weight, we're not gaining weight because we're eating too many things like apples. It's the other stuff. It's the fatty cuts of steak, the cold soda, the fresh baked cookie that just came out of the oven. Now tell me that doesn't sound more appealing than your chicken breast, broccoli, and brown rice. Look, I get it. Food is supposed to be tasty, but today's food is engineered to be more addictive. This combination of salt, sugar, and fat just hits our brain like a slot machine. That's why 95% of us are eating too many calories, too much saturated fat, too much added sugar, and too much alcohol, while not getting enough of the basics. Your lean proteins, your whole grains, your fruits and vegetables, and your low-fat dairy. The result of this? A diet that is lacking in fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Just leaves us hungry, undernourished, and we just keep eating because, right, we're not getting what we need. So how do we fix this? How did I fix this? A majority of my diet comes from the food groups. Again, lean protein, whole grains, fruits and vegetables, low-fat dairy. 85% of my diet is made up of these foods. Then I leave a little bit of room for the fun stuff, right? Whether it's a drink or a soda or, having a fresh baked cookie. But I keep it mindful. My portions are small and my cravings don't become this like free-for-all. And that's the balance, right? You don't have to be perfect. So here are the takeaways. Base your diet around whole, minimally processed foods, ideally from the food groups we just talked about. Give your body what it needs. Fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Then go enjoy the other stuff. Just not like it's your full-time job. Step 8, macronutrients. Fueling for the results that you want. For years, I did what most people did when they're trying to get lean or lose weight. I would restrict calories, but I wouldn't eat right. Low protein, high carbs and fats. Honestly, a lot of my food was highly processed. Don't get me wrong, the food tasted great. Remember that salt, sugar, and fat combo always keeps you coming back for more. But what I didn't realize at the time was how much harder I was actually making it for myself. My hunger was all over the place. My workouts, I had low energy. And I really never knew if I was actually building muscle or if I was just spinning my wheels. Oftentimes when people are dieting or trying to lose weight, they go to these extremes where they're super high protein or cutting out all carbs or focusing on fats or some sort of variation of keto or carnivore. But it all isn't very sustainable. And I see it in my clients over and over again. What changed everything for me was dialing in my macros. The right balance helped me eat in a way that actually supported my goal, not just restrict calories. So here's how I break it down. For protein, somewhere in the range of 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram is a good range. Another way to look at that might be like about 1 gram per lean body pound that you have. For fats, somewhere in the range of like 20 to 35% of your calorie needs should go to dietary fats. For carbohydrates, you're just going to take the total calories from protein and the total calories from fat and subtract that from your total daily calorie needs, and that remainder is going to be the number of calories that are going to be partitioned off for carbohydrate. Then you can take that number and divide it by 4 to get your grams of carb. The goal here, hit these numbers consistently, but it doesn't have to be perfect. The takeaway, the right balance of these macros is going to help you feel full, fueled, and keep you focused. Protein is going to support muscle, your carbs are going to fuel your workouts, and that fat is going to help you feel satisfied. Eating the right balance of these, staying within your calorie budget, that's how you're going to lose 25 pounds and build some muscle. Step 9, meal timing. You're probably not eating enough at the right time. For years, my morning looked something like this. A coffee, maybe something small, but that was it. I'd tell myself I wasn't hungry or I just didn't have time. Then I'd have a light lunch, maybe pick at a few snacks. By the time dinner rolled around, I was starving. I'd eat fast, a lot, and usually not the best choices. Then I'd spend the rest of the night just grazing, trying to feel satisfied. Sound familiar? This is an all too common story. The issue isn't just the overeating at night. It's the fact that you're underfueling for the entire day. And that messes with your hunger cues, your energy, and the muscle building process. How I fixed this? I stopped skipping meals and I started fueling with a purpose. I built my days around 3 to 4 meals, usually 3 to 4 hours apart from each other. And they all consisted of a kind of similar breakdown where I'd have 30 to 40 grams of protein, probably 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate, and 15 to 25 grams of fat. I also started eating before my workouts, usually some carbs to fuel up, and then after my workout, protein and carbs to help the recovery and rebuild process. And once I made that change, I wasn't consistently hungry, my workouts felt stronger, and I finally started seeing like real results. So here are the takeaways. Eat with a plan, not out of panic. Fuel your body on purpose, not when it's just screaming at you. If your meals are an afterthought, your progress will be too. Step 10 is all about supplements and hydration. Look, I have tried just about every supplement out there. I have tried fat burners, I have tried detoxes, I have tried testosterone boosters, you name it, I have probably tried it. I've spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on them. And guess what? Most of them don't do jack for you, right? Supplement companies can kind of just say whatever they want. There's very little regulation behind supplement companies and what they can say and what they can do. So, right, a majority of supplements out there are really just all hype. Now, as I became a dietitian and I started diving into the research because I was interested in these things, I realized that there were a few that were effective. I couldn't write them all off. So here's what made the cut. First is creatine monohydrate. Creatine monohydrate has a ton of research behind it, really specifically in the sports world. It improves strength, improves recovery, and allows you to kind of push it a little harder than what you normally would be able to. Again, it's not magic, but it's helpful. Number 2 is caffeine. When used correctly, it can really boost your intensity and your performance in the gym. And number 3 is whey protein. Now, it's definitely not magic. It's just more convenient than, let's say, having to eat a chicken breast, right? It's a lot easier to drink a protein shake. So when I'm thinking supplements, I kind of stick to those 3, and that's kind of where my suggestion would go here is like, go with the ones that have a little bit of evidence behind them and show some sort of, positive effect. As far as hydration is concerned, I have to say I was chronically dehydrated. I'd have coffee all morning, maybe a diet soda or an energy drink later in the afternoon, and maybe a couple sips of water. And I was like wondering, I feel like crap, I'm foggy headed, my performance sucks in the gym. Yeah, I was chronically dehydrated. So as far as this one is concerned, I now try and make sure that I prioritize drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning. It's not straight to coffee. And I also try and carry a water bottle around with me everywhere. The goal of this is really just to remove any friction from me having to get access to water. Right? None of this needs to be fancy, it just really needs to get the job done. So the real takeaways here are most supplements are just expensive pee. Stick with the ones that have some good research behind them. And always, always, always pay attention to the most important one, which is staying hydrated. Let's move on to the next category, which is all about training. Here's the truth, I spent so much time wasted in the gym. Extra cardio, random workouts. I was exhausted, and honestly, I wasn't super happy with my overall progress. It was this cycle of go hard, burn out, and then just fizzle off and repeat that cycle over and over again. And I thought that I needed more discipline. I thought I needed more motivation. I thought I needed to go harder, but that's not what I needed. What finally worked for me was having a framework, a system that allowed me to get the most out of each session. This is now the framework that I use today, and it's also the framework that I teach my clients to lose body fat, build muscle, but most importantly, enjoy what they're doing. This 5-step training framework will help you lose body fat, will help you build some muscle, but most importantly, it will help you make sure that you're getting the most return on your overall effort. Let's dive in. Step 11, don't try and do it all. There was a time where I tried to do everything. Burn more, run more, lift more. So I'd stack my workouts. I would do strength training and cardio all in the same session. I was motivated, and at first it felt good. It felt like I was doing what it took in order to get to where I wanted to go, but it didn't last. Pretty soon I burnt out. I was tired, I was sore, and I was just frustrated with my overall lack of progress. Eventually, I figured out that I needed to pull back. I needed to spend more time focusing on what mattered and just leave the rest alone. I broke my training up into manageable, effective pieces. Here's the simple framework that I use and I teach my clients as well. Starting out with steps, shooting for anywhere between 7,500 to 12,000 a day. I'll also use a weighted vest during these steps so that I can get a little bit more of effectiveness out of this. Next, I do my strength training. At minimum, I try and do 2 strength training sessions per week, but with a goal of doing closer to 4 sessions per week so that I can target the muscle groups twice per week. Finally, my thoughts around cardio are that if you enjoy it, do it. 1 to 2 sessions per week, but don't try and do it on the same days or the same times where you're doing your strength training. Separate the two and try and make them both as effective as possible. And most importantly, when I'm lifting, I'm focused on building muscle. I'm not just trying to rush through it to burn more calories. I stopped trying to prove something with every workout, and once I did, I actually started seeing results. So here are the takeaways. Just because you can do more doesn't mean you should. Train with a purpose, hit your quota, stay consistent, and let your body do what it's built to do, adapt and grow. Step 12, prioritize your strength training. When I started taking training seriously, I thought that more was better. I would ride my bike to the gym, lift, cardio, and then ride my bike home. Stacking up my cardio sessions on top of my strength training sessions, thinking that this is how I'm going to burn more calories. This is how I'm going to get leaner. This is how I'm going to see results faster. But here's what really happened. I was exhausted. I never could push it in the gym. And I never saw real progress. Like week after week, all of my lifts stayed the same. So how did I change this? I flipped the script on how I looked at training. And I really started to prioritize my strength training. Before my lifting sessions, I don't do cardio because all that's gonna do is take away the energy that I need in order to move the weights. And after, I go home and eat because the recovery process starts when I'm done lifting weights, not after another 30 minutes of cardio. So here are the takeaways. Don't train just to burn more calories. Train to get stronger. Prioritize your lifts and everything else will get easier. Step 13, maximizing your movement. There was a time that I thought that my workouts were enough. I'd go to the gym for an hour, but then I would sit in the car. I'd sit at my desk or I would sit and watch TV. This is what we call an active couch potato, right? You go do your activity for an hour a day and then you kind of just sit completely still for the rest of the day. And even though I was working out, I was not seeing the fat loss progress that I expected. My energy was low, my recovery wasn't great, and my progress eventually just stalled out. So what changed for me? I started treating my movement outside of the gym as part of the plan. So now I try and get about 7,500 steps to 12,000, not in all one chunk or go at it, but rather I'll break it up into 2 to 3 walks that last anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes long. This became one of my biggest fat loss levers. Right? If I wanted to get a little bit leaner, all I'm doing is making sure that I'm staying on top of my daily movement regimen. So what are the takeaways? If you only move for that isolated 1 hour a day, you're missing out on one of the biggest fat loss levers. Your daily movement is this quiet driver that is going to help with fat loss, that is going to help with recovery, and just overall long-term progress. Right? I think a key point here is you don't have to be crushing yourself with cardio every day. You just need to move more, sit less, and your body will thank you for it later. Step 14, cardio. Do something that you enjoy. For me, the walking in place on the treadmill or grinding it on the stair stepper, it's boring. I don't look forward to doing it. And running, man, it's taxing. I can feel it in my joints. I can definitely notice the impact that it has on my recovery and my lifts. And see, here's the issue. Trying to build a consistent routine around something that you absolutely hate doing it's hard, especially if you're already in a calorie deficit and you're trying to manage your energy in recovery. Cardio is beneficial for fat loss. And I would say, especially for those that are eating a little bit closer to maintenance and still want to lose a little bit more weight. That said, it's not going to be super beneficial for you if you completely burn out because you hate doing it or it just makes you miserable. So how do I work around this? First and foremost, I focus on the non-negotiables. That is your strength training and the daily steps. From there, I just try and find things that I actually enjoy. For me, it might be going for a bike ride, a hike, just getting outside and doing something I truly enjoy. I block off time for these things just like I do for workouts. And by including 1 extra cardio session per week, I notice more fat loss without sacrificing my lifts or my recovery or my sanity. So the takeaways, you don't have to suffer to see progress. Cardio doesn't need to be a punishment. It can be something that you actually enjoy. Find what moves you and just keep doing that. Step 15, which is prioritizing rest and recovery, the last step within the training category. When we have these big goals, losing 25 pounds, building some muscle, it's easy to fall for the trap that more is better. I've done it myself. training 6 to 7 days a week, squeezing in extra cardio, even waking up wicked early to do fasted cardio, even though I'm exhausted. But here's the worst part, right? I thought I was being motivated, but I was just spinning my wheels and wasting my time. I had to learn that the hard way, that rest and recovery are not optional. They're part of the program. Now, I use how I feel to guide how I'm going to train for the next day or the next week. I usually will do 2 to 3 days on with a day or two off, and it adds up to maybe 4 to 5 total sessions per week. I'm also prioritizing my nutrition during this time to maximize recovery. So here's what that looks like. I'm no longer just dragging myself through the workouts, doing the motions, right? I'm not dreading actually going to the gym. I'm ready to show up. I'm ready to push it. I'm ready to see progress. So here are the takeaways. You don't grow from the workout itself, but rather you grow from the recovery after them. Rest isn't a sign of weakness. It's what allows you to be consistent, to push it hard, and to keep getting better. We're about to get into one of the most overlooked parts of any transformation, and that's tracking your progress. Most people quit not because they are lazy, but because they think that what they're doing isn't working. As humans, we're wired to want instant gratification. When the results aren't obvious right away, we assume that we're failing and we stop trying. But here's the truth. If you're not tracking, you're guessing. And when you're guessing, you're flying blind. So what's the solution here? You just start paying attention. You start measuring and tracking the things that matter. This starts to build up some self-awareness, which allows you to stay focused, and it allows you to see the little incremental progress that you're making and working towards. We're about to talk about the 5 simple steps for figuring out and measuring what matters without overcomplicating everything. First, we're gonna look at tracking weight and body fat percentage. Then we're gonna look at tracking your body measurements and progress pictures. Then we're going to look at your tracking of your calories and macronutrients. Then we'll look at creating a plan and tracking your workouts. And finally, we'll look at tracking your steps. Now, none of this has to be perfect, but it should be consistent. Let's go ahead and dive in. Step 16 is about measuring and tracking your weight and body fat percentage. After falling out of a routine, eating too much, working out virtually none, and just generally not taking care of myself, the last thing that I wanted to do was to hop on a scale. I'd rather avoid it, pretend it wasn't a problem until it was. See, becoming self-aware is uncomfortable, but avoiding the problem and pretending it's not there usually will just make it worse. The shift changed for me once I added in some accountability. I scheduled my yearly doctor's appointment to get my labs done. This was like the same story I told you of the client of mine that, had a bad doctor's visit and wanted to turn everything around before she had to go see her doctor again. Yeah, I needed that same moment of truth. And once I did, I just made it easy. I put the scale in front of the bathroom. I put a sticky note up on the mirror to remind me to actually get on the scale. And then at the same time, every day, I'd hop on the scale, I'd track the weight, and then I would move on. I also got a scale that actually measured both weight and body fat percentage, and this was because we know that weight in and of itself doesn't tell the full story. So here are the takeaways. Awareness is the first step to change, right? If you can see it, you can change it. Right? Don't avoid the data, but rather use it to your advantage. Step 17, measuring your body and taking progress pictures. All right, so there'd be mornings that I would step on the scale, thinking all excited, hey, I'm gonna see progress this week. I'd step on the scale and the scale hadn't even moved. And sometimes even worse, it went up. I was eating right, I was training hard, I was doing all of the things. And when I stepped on that scale, it felt like what I was doing just wasn't working. Yeah, it really messed with my head. Because when you step on the scale, you would assume, right, you're gonna be seeing progress, you're doing all the things, and then it doesn't move. I mean, what are we supposed to conclude from that, right? I mean, it feels like we're failing. But here's what I didn't realize. The scale in and of itself doesn't paint the full picture. Your weight can fluctuate from a lot of different variables, from sodium intake to undigested food in your belly. Maybe you're still a little inflamed from the workout you did just the other day. It doesn't always reflect the fat loss. And it can definitely be discouraging if it's your only metric that you're tracking and basing your success off of. So how did I fix this? How did I work through this piece? I added 2 more tools, and this is taking body measurements. I used a Taylor's measuring tape to do my measurements. I also took progress pictures, at least once a week, but I mean, at minimum doing at least every other week. Waist, hips, arms, chest, I would start to measure the areas where I could be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna lose some fat here. So these would be good areas where I can measure and I can see some progress, especially if the scale didn't move. And I feel like the photos, the progress pictures, were the most revealing. Like week over week, I could see the changes. I could go back and be like, last week I was, I had some more body fat here. This week I clearly can see that that is no longer the case, right? This reinforced my behaviors. Right, maybe didn't see the scale go down that week, but I still saw progress in these other metrics, whether it was body measurements or progress pictures. So it reinforced me to continue down the path I wanted to go on. So here are the takeaways, right? The scale lies. Well, at least it doesn't tell the full truth. Track your measurements and take your pictures, and don't put too much weight on the scale. Step 18, track your calories and your macros. We're not great at estimating how much we eat. Not over the course of a day, or definitely not over the course of a week. I mean, look at these two plates of food. One is 300 calories and the other is 600 calories. To the naked eye, they almost look identical. It's easy to under-track and it's easy to overeat. The solution here is to track everything. I use Chronometer, and I also share the Chronometer profile with my clients so that I can review their tracking as well. But the real game changer, using a food scale. Not forever, but just long enough for you to be able to see what real portions look like. Because eyeballing peanut butter, let's just say everyone's getting that one wrong. Even after years of tracking, I still run into it. Just last week, I had to figure out how much a serving of popcorn was. Yes, I'm a dietitian, and I still had to go figure out and look that up. Because it's not about perfection. It's about improving your awareness and making better choices with confidence. So the takeaways here. You can't manage what you don't measure. Track your food, use a scale, and remember, it's a skill. The more you practice, the better you'll get at it. Step 19, make a plan and start tracking your resistance training. In my early 20s, I spent an ungodly amount of time in the gym, but I had no plan. I'd walk in, look around, and just do what felt right for the day. Maybe a little bit of this, maybe a little bit of that. Some arms, some chest. Let's see if a machine's open. That was the extent of my plan. Even though I was training all the time, I wasn't getting any stronger. I wasn't building any new muscle tissue. In all honesty, I was wasting time and spinning my wheels. Everything changed when I stopped winging it. I looked at the areas that I wanted to improve upon and built a plan that focused on those muscle groups, what workouts were going to target them, and the progressions that I was going to use. And then I started tracking every session. I just used the Notes app in my phone, nothing fancy. Every week I'd try and add a little bit more weight to the bar, or I would try and add a rep or two. These small progressions or pushes made all the difference. So here are the takeaways. I spent years doing random workouts and really not getting anywhere. But once I followed a plan and tracked my workouts, I made more progress in 12 weeks than I did probably in the entire decade before. So have a plan, track it, that's how you grow. Step 20, track your steps. We live in a world that is built for comfort. We sit in cars, we sit at our desks, we sit to relax and watch TV. I mean, for goodness sakes, we sit on a throne to go to the bathroom. Most of us don't move enough unless we are intentional about it. Getting in 7,500 to 12,000 steps, it's not easy. It does take a little bit of effort. It really doesn't happen by accident. The first thing that I tell my clients to do is to pull up their Apple Health and to look at what their daily average step count is. And then that becomes the starting point. Start tracking your steps consistently. You can use an Apple Watch or a Fitbit, or even order a cheap pedometer off of Amazon. I hit the outdoor walk on my Apple Watch and I record every one of the workouts. And every week I go back into my Apple Health and see how many steps I'm averaging either per day or per week. And if it's a little light, I'll try and increase them. If it's, a ton, then I'll be happy with it and just try and continue that on that path. I've personally even started to add in using a weighted vest just to make the walks a little bit more effective, specifically for fat loss. Make it a little bit more challenging. And I aim for doing, like I said, 2 to 3, 20 to 30 minute walks per day. So some takeaways here. Steps are great for fat loss, but they're also great for a ton of other things. Mood, your cognitive ability, taking a little break from work, digestion, and just keeping up with a consistent routine. Track them and prioritize them, because sitting less and moving more is going to beat out that magic pill every time that everyone is chasing. That's the exact 20-step framework that I would use to lose 25 pounds and build some muscle. Simple, strategic, and sustainable. Now it's your turn. Pick where you're starting at and go get after it.